Today, we are going to tackle that moment of just pure frustration. You know the one. You search for a flight, you see a price, you maybe hesitate for an hour, and when you come back, it's completely different. Why? It feels like total chaos, but as we're about to see, there is a very, very specific method to all that madness.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from a recent U.S. congressional hearing just hits the nail on the head. The idea that people on the very same flight are paying wildly different prices without a clue why, well, that is the exact problem we're here to unpack today.
So, yeah, how do we solve this puzzle? Today, we are going to piece it all together and hopefully give you an insider's view of how this whole system really works.
To really get why pricing is so chaotic now, we actually have to go back in time. We gotta look at a single pivotal moment that completely reshaped the entire airline industry. So believe it or not, before 1978, flying was a luxury, and the government controlled pretty much everything. The prices, the routes, you name it. And then, boom, the Airline Deregulation Act happened. This act just blew the doors wide open, and it unleashed this competitive free-for-all, where airlines suddenly had to invent brand new ways to price tickets just to survive.
And this one single event, it created two completely different worlds of air travel. You know, before you had this stable, predictable, but really expensive system. And after, well, you have our world. Dynamic, competitive, and for the average person, just totally bewildering. Now, this shift made flying accessible to millions more people for sure. But it's also the reason we're all stuck playing this really complex pricing game today.
So that's the history lesson. Now let's pull back the curtain on the modern pricing machine and see the algorithms that decide in real time exactly what you are going to pay. The engine behind all of this is something called dynamic pricing. And you should think of it this way. There's really no fixed price for a seat. There's only the price for a seat right this second. Airline computers are constantly, and I mean constantly, crunching data. How many people are searching, what competitors are charging, how many seats are left, and adjusting the fare, sometimes minute by minute. So how does this dynamic pricing actually work? Well, airlines use what's called a bucket system. Basically, they divide all the seats on a plane into different price categories or buckets. The first handful of seats are sold from the cheapest bucket. Once that's empty, the price automatically jumps up to the next, more expensive one. And they even protect some seats, holding them back for those last-minute business travelers who they just know will pay top dollar.
Now, here's what's so interesting about this. It's the sheer scale of it all. We are not talking about just 2 or 3 price buckets here. According to research, a huge airline like Delta can have as many as, get this, 77 different fare levels for a single flight. 77! I mean, that's just wild. And it's exactly why the person sitting right next to you might have paid a completely different price for their ticket.
Okay, so this brings us to one of the most famous pieces of travel advice out there, right? Everyone's heard it. Hey, book your flights on a Tuesday to get the absolute best deal. But is it actually true?
Well, the short answer, and this is backed by research from UC Berkeley, is that it's largely a myth. The crucial factor isn't what day of the week you book, it's how far in advance you book. See, airline algorithms are programmed to automatically hike up prices at these key intervals: 21 days out, 14 days out, and 7 days before departure. So avoiding those deadlines, that's way more important than what day of the week you're booking.
Okay, so we've talked about the base fare, but as we all know, that is rarely the final price you pay. So let's get into the part of the experience that drives travelers absolutely crazy, the endless, super confusing world of fees.
The industry actually has a name for this tactic. It's called drip pricing. And the idea is they show you this attractive low fare to get you hooked. And then, click by click through the checkout process, they start dripping on all these extra charges for things that, used to be included, like choosing your seat or even bringing a carry-on bag.
And just how wild can these fees get? I mean, just look at this table. The data is from that same congressional hearing, and it's mind-boggling. It shows 4 different passengers on the exact same flight being charged wildly different amounts for a carry-on bag, anything from $0 all the way up to $99. From the outside looking in, there's just no apparent logic to it.
So naturally, when lawmakers pressed the airlines to justify these fees, they were pretty much met with silence. For example, a senator pointed out that while United's CEO had previously said it cost them $1.9 billion to handle checked bags one year, the airline now claims they can't even produce an estimate of those costs. It's this lack of transparency that's a huge source of frustration for everybody.
And honestly, the questions get even more concerning.
During that hearing, it came out that some airlines require your personal info, like your gender and age, just to show you the price of a seat. Now, the airlines deny that this is used for price setting, but it really makes you wonder, why do they need that data just to sell you a ticket?
Okay, so you now understand the system. It's complex, it often feels totally unfair, but you know what? Knowledge is power. So now let's get to the playbook, how you can use this information to navigate the game and actually save some money.
Okay, first up, the base fare. The biggest takeaway here, book more than 21 days out. That's how you avoid those automatic price jumps. Second, if you're flying with a group, try searching for tickets one by one. Otherwise, the system might bump your whole group into a more expensive price bucket if there aren't enough cheap seats left for everyone. And finally, try to be flexible. Shifting your dates by just a day or two can make a huge difference.
Now for those fees. Here is the big secret. You almost never have to pay to select a seat. Just skip that step when you're booking online. The airline will assign you one for free. Also, know who you're flying with. The budget carriers, like Spirit and Frontier, they're going to have the highest fees, while airlines like Alaska and Hawaiian tend to have the lowest. And of course, the simplest tip of all, just pack right.
And here's a little pro tip for you, a little upgrade hack from the experts at NerdWallet. It's a potential reward for being brave and skipping that seat selection. See, if a flight is pretty full and those more expensive premium or exit row seats are still empty, well, the airline has to put somebody in them. By not choosing a seat, you basically put yourself in the pool of passengers who could get assigned one of those better seats for free. Look, it's a gamble, for sure, but it can pay off big time.
So there you have it. You're not in the dark anymore. You understand the history, you get the algorithms, and you know the tactics. The next time you go to search for a flight, you'll know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?